Hi, Gabrielle. Let's take a look at this essay about pollution. Um, you are asking me a question here. Yeah, it's not directly asking you for your opinion. It's not saying, what do you believe or so forth. But in a way it is. Because when it says what are the reasons for this, I mean, this is your opinion about what the reasons are for this. And again, your opinion about how these problems can be solved. So I don't think it's necessarily wrong to say I firmly believe, but if you want, you certainly could avoid it by simply saying, given from the examples and arguments given, or from the examples and arguments given, there are a number of solutions, etc., etc., etc. You could just do it like that and leave out the I firmly believe, okay? But again, essentially it is your opinion on what the reasons and the solutions are. All right, in any case, let's move on and see what you said in this essay. It is commonly noticed. Commonly noticed is a little strange. It is commonly believed, or it is a common fact, or it is a widespread belief. What else could you say? It is commonly known. That's actually probably the best one. So let's try that. It is commonly known that there is an increase in pollution, such as air pollution in urban centers. I believe the reason for this is because of the increase in vehicle use and more industrialization around the cities. See, even here you said I believe. This essay will give two reasons around this issue and use examples from the Indian government and Greenpeace to demonstrate points and provide two solutions. Okay, don't forget a full stop here, but that's fine. Firstly, there is ample evidence that the use of vehicles, journeys, that's a little awkward, the use of vehicles throughout here, the city center, increases carbon emissions, which results in more smog and air pollution. For example, a recent study from Greenpeace indicates that in Beijing, the carbon emission has considerably increased by 75% in the last 5 years due to the growth of vehicle use in the center of the city. Therefore, the reduction of transportation by car would be beneficial to decrease air pollution. A solution could be to... Reduction of transportation by car would be beneficial. A solution could be to encourage people to use more eco-friendly public transportation such as trams, trains, and bicycles. To make this more attractive for people, the government should reduce the prices of public transport and could increase car taxes to travel through the city center. All right, now, there are a couple of different ways you can do a problem and solution essay. One is the way you did it, and the other way is to have a paragraph for your problems and a paragraph for the solutions. And that's a good thing to do when your solutions don't match your problems. Okay? So in other words, you have to do it like that. Now the way you did it, it looks like each problem has at least one solution. And so it's okay to do it the way you did. However, you have to be careful about something when you do it like this, okay? It becomes really obvious when you do it the other way, but when you do it the way you did, you run this risk and it's not always so clear. Let me explain to you what I mean, what risk you run. You give a solution here, okay? But you have to explain how it's a solution, how it would help, or, why you think this is a solution. All right. So what did you say here? You said a solution would be to encourage more eco-friendly public transportation, such as trams, trains, and bicycles. Okay, well, why would this be a solution? Okay, so just tell us that these would reduce air pollution by approximately 30% in the cities, or these use new generation public transport is often hybrid or electric powered or something. But explain to us why. Okay. To make this more attractive, the government should reduce the prices. Okay. Yeah, and then you could again add this would yeah, I mean, I guess it's kind of redundant to say it, but I do think that you needed to add why you think this is a solution. Okay? So that's that. So just keep that in mind. Anytime you give a solution, you have to explain why or how it's a solution. And that's so common because people typically do support the problems well. They explain why it's a problem, but they don't do the same with the solutions, and that's kind of what you fell into here. Let's take a look at the second paragraph. Another reason for pollution is because of the increase in heavy industries around the cities, which leads to severe air and water contamination. For example, a recent study by the Indian government indicates that the industrialization around Mumbai has increased by 37% in the last year. As a result, cities are getting more polluted and eventually also affect people's health. There are two suggestions to solve this problem. Firstly, to compensate for the existing industry around the city, the government could build more green urban spaces such as parks in and around the city center. Okay, maybe you could have just said one little thing that, these would offset the emissions by producing more oxygen. Something like that, okay? Just go a step further and explain how it's a solution. Secondly, for future industrialization, strict environmental planning like better waste incinerators and building further away from urban areas should be taken, there should be an EN, into account. Okay, again, explain how is that a solution? So you don't need to have two solutions for each problem, but you do need to make sure that you support and explain both your problems and your solutions. So in conclusion, from the examples and arguments given, I firmly believe that there are a couple of solutions. I don't like really there are a couple of. It sounds a little informal, Gabrielle. So there are numerous solutions, such as encouragement of public transport, improvement of green areas, and new building areas for industries to reduce pollution in urban centers. All right, that's lovely. So, Gabrielle, it's a good essay. It's very good. But I do want you to work on some of those areas, okay? Just developing a little bit further, making sure that you support any sort of claim that you make here. All right? Nice job, though. Again, very natural language, minimal mistakes. So it was a good essay overall, okay? You should feel happy about it. Oh, boy. Let's see your note here. Let me just read your note really quickly. Experienced many difficulties with the bar chart. I understand that it is an undeveloped less meat on the bones essay. Actually, it's not really true. There are a lot of meat. No, let me try that again. There is a lot of meat on the bones here. Okay, yes, I can give you suggestions, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. Have no worries, okay? So let's take a look at this. The given bar chart illustrates the number of vehicle sales of 3 different car companies, and you named them good, in 9 different European countries. Excellent. I'm glad you named those too. In the year 2018, units are measured in 100,000. You didn't even have to say that. Just uncomplicate your life a little bit and say units are measured in thousands. Okay? Overall, of the 9 countries, Hungary had the highest sales of cars, which was almost 4 times higher compared to Belgium. Popularity of 3 brands differs per country. Okay, that's fine. Let me check your word count. I think you're okay, but it does look kind of short. Let's see. Yeah, 168. So, this is a chart that you could actually say a lot about. All right, I don't think it's one that has little meat on its bones. I think it has a ton of meat, but we'll talk about it in a minute. Okay. So, as is shown by the chart, get rid of that. So, as is shown by the chart, Ford had the highest sales in the nations Belgium and the Netherlands, which was around 70,000 and 130,000 respectively. Ford, orange. So, you're saying, let me try that. What did you say? You said Belgium and the Netherlands. Ah, I see what you did. All right. Okay, I'm a little confused why you would have said Belgium. I mean, it's clearly Hungary. Okay, so clearly Ford had the highest sales in Holland and Hungary. Certainly not Belgium. Okay, so you've got a little bit of inaccuracy here. The lowest number of sales was in Germany and Italy, which were both around 10,000 vehicles. Germany and Italy, that's true. Okay, regarding Audi, the highest sales, plural. Regarding Audi, the highest sales were in Germany with approximately 130. Audi is purple. Germany. Okay, that's true. But also take a look at Hungary. Okay, and this was almost 130 times higher compared to the sales in Belgium. Okay. The car sales of BMW were in most of the countries around 100,000, except for Belgium, which was almost 100 times lower. All right, you could have just said which was a negligible amount. All right, so I see what happened. You had a lot of difficulty with this chart. Well, let's see. First of all, this is called a stacked bar chart. And why do you think that they've chosen to stack it like this? Like, why put these numbers on top of each other rather than just next to each other? So you've got like France, you've got Audi, BMW, and Ford next to each other, and Audi, BMW, and Ford. Why would they choose to do it like this? All right, well, I don't know if you can come up with an answer, but the answer is this. They're not so, they're not so concerned, but they're firstly concerned with this overall. So what they're really trying to tell you here in Hungary is that the car sales in Hungary were almost 400,000. And those three car companies made up that total equally. Okay, so now here, what's in a good country to talk about? Okay, so let's say Italy, for example. Italy had just over 100,000, but it was predominantly made up by BMW. And Ford and Audi only had maybe like, what is that, like 20,000? So really a very minimal amount. So that's why it's stacked, because they're concerned firstly about these totals and then about the individual car companies. So what I would suggest in a chart like this is to have your first paragraph, like obviously not this one with your overview and your introduction, but this one, your first detailed paragraph, should be a very just kind of brief discussion of these totals. Now, do you remember the one we did with the shoes, with the shoe sales? Do you remember how it had those numbers on the side? And I don't know if I said it to you, but I know I say it to pretty much everybody. Use those numbers as your guide. Okay, so what do I mean? The first detail paragraph could sound something like this. The highest number of cars sold in the 9 European countries, not the highest number, the country with the highest sales of cars in the 9 European countries was Hungary with 400,000. It was followed by France with just over 300,000. The least cars were sold in Belgium with X and Italy with Y. The remaining countries all sold around between 200 and 300,000. Okay? So you would do it pretty much like that. It's about focusing on those highs, focusing on those lows, and then just kind of grouping all of those together. All right? And if you did this in the beginning, naming those countries, then we know, without even saying it, that the Netherlands was somewhere between 200 and 300,000. Okay? Does that make sense? So that's what your first detail paragraph should look like. Then you're going to do something very similar for the car companies within each country. So when I look at this really quickly, it looks to me like I actually liked what you said about BMW. I think you're absolutely right. BMW sold approximately 100,000 cars in all of the countries except for Belgium, where it sold whatever that is, like 5,000 to 10,000 cars. Okay. Then you could talk about Ford, and you could say Ford sold the most cars in Holland and Hungary. If you can figure out what that number is, it looks like it's about maybe 150,000, maybe. Okay, and then you can say it sold the least amount of cars in Italy and Germany. Figuring out that number is probably around 10,000 or so. And in the remaining countries, sold between X and Y. So the same exact kind of thing is what you could do here for Ford, and the same thing for Audi. Okay? And then, so you don't have to go into a ton of detail, but you're also not neglecting information. You're focusing on those highs, you're focusing on those lows, and then the rest of the information that's not super important to get into details about, you just kind of do it like that. So just to recap, this paragraph was fine, but then I would have a paragraph about those totals, okay, of the countries. And then in your next paragraph, I would, like I said, a sentence about the highs, a sentence about the lows, a quick sentence about those middles for each of the countries. All right? Try it like that. See if it works out for you. And that's kind of what I recommend, okay? Let me know if you have any questions, and I'll be waiting. So good luck, and I'll be waiting for your next set.